There are certain things that happen. Sometimes you don't know what to do because you're not directly involved or you're too far away from the situation. It's like, well, what can I possibly do? Because there's so much distance between you and the situation. You don't feel like you can even if you try to do something, you can really have an impact, anything like that. You just kind of, you see it, but because you don't know what to do, and because any action on your part wouldn't really make a dent in the situation, you just let it go and just move on, even though you see it and you feel like something needs to be said and something needs to be done. You just think that it just can't be you. Nothing you can do or say will have that much of an impact on that situation. But sometimes people push it. They really push it. Okay, and you can't help but shake your head in complete and utter disgust of what you see. The last couple of days have been difficult. The last couple of days have definitely been difficult. It is February 2026, and the world is tuned into the Winter Olympics. The Olympic Games is really supposed to be, it's one of the few spaces, especially in this day and age, left where people can put aside differences and focus on beauty, focus on talent, focus on merit, hard work, merit, focus on character, yeah, integrity, camaraderie, unison sportsmanship, and culture, right? It's a beautiful space to be able to celebrate culture and celebrate individuality, celebrate individuality, but also celebrate what makes people one, what unifies us, right? And just really bask in a world of incredible talent. And just soak in all the colorful interactions and connections that people can make along the way. And for a second, okay, however long the games last, weeks, for a moment in time, people can stop and really appreciate each other and appreciate and basically one of the few moments where people can really contemplate what makes us one species, right? The human race, right? The last couple of days have been very difficult. They have been difficult because it's hard to see. It's hard to see someone embodying the characteristic or trying their best, right? embodying the characteristics of a true sportsman or sportswoman, athlete, right? Embodying the characteristics of just a decent human being, representing their country with class and dignity, right? And respect. Being shortchanged to the degree that happened to the Olympic ice skaters. The chalk bait situation is nothing short of scandalous. It flies in the face of everything that we know to be true. Not just as a sport, the Olympics, and not just all that. At the core of human nature, we have a sense of, even kids at a very young age, we have a sense of justice at a very, very young age. We know when something doesn't look right. We can feel it. It's like the air thickens. Even through the screen, even when you're not at the game, you can feel it. It's an energy. Yeah. What happened to chalk baits is nothing short of not just insulting, but wow. I mean, there are no words to describe what they did to them at the Olympic Games 2026. It's tough to see someone working so hard for something, right? It's tough to see somebody going after their goals with such tenacity and strength and persistence. For them to get there, and for someone, one individual, sometimes even a group, right? For someone to deny them that, right? And the funny thing is, well, it's not funny, actually, no. The strange thing is, they find a way to put you in the system. They tell you, hey, listen, this is the game, these are the rules, this is how you score, this is what we're measuring you against. Yes, okay, fine, got it. And you do everything you can do to meet those standards. And you've met those standards, right? Because that's what it's not an accident that when you get to a certain level, it's not an accident. You're not there by accident. It's like, whoops, I got there. No, it's intentional. You've worked for this, right? You've analyzed yourself. You've made sacrifices. You've practiced self-restraint. You've made decisions solely to achieve that goal, right? There's been how many times did you say, oh, let me have that, that pizza, and then realize, no, I'm not going to have the pizza because I have this goal. You've said, let me go out and party all night, and then you're like, no, I can't because I have this goal. How many times have we done that? Every single one of us can relate, because we've had moments where we have a goal, but the things we want to do in the moment don't align with the goal. So we make those sacrifices. We practice the self-discipline. We practice self-restraint, self-control. Okay? We deny ourselves in the moment for the future goal, right? In order to attain something very specific. So we're targeting that. And the idea is, once we achieve this thing, okay, in X amount of months or years, whatever the case, once we achieve this thing, we can kind of take a break and relax and say, okay, right, let me, indulge, right? because I've made so many sacrifices. I've, restrained myself so long. Let me indulge now. I can relax. I can breathe. I can do this. Okay. All of us have had that, right? That experience. Can you imagine doing all of this, going through this long, drawn out journey of self-sacrifice and denial, self-denial for, again, sort of like delayed gratification, okay, for the longer term. And then to get there, like, okay, I'm there, deliver everything that you can deliver. Put your best out there because that's what you've practiced, that's what you've worked for, that's what you've trained for, that's what you've been committed to for the last years, right? Decade even, right? That's what you've been working towards for a very, very long time. Getting there, doing your absolute best, close to flawless, right? And yet, you don't get it. And the reason why you don't get it, it's not because somebody else was better necessarily. They may be a competition, because at this level, everyone's competition, right? At this level, all of these athletes have gone through something, some sort of process to get to where they are. They're not there by accident, so we're not taking anything away from them either. Everybody has made sacrifices to get to where they are. So if you are in the Olympic Games, it's not by accident. You've been selected to be there, right? Okay, or you've earned your way there to some extent. So we're not going to take anything away from anybody. So everyone is competition to some degree. But imagine doing all of this, putting yourself or your heart and soul out into the craft for people to see, and for you personally to gain the satisfaction that, you know what, I held nothing back. And only to be denied your goal, your reward that you've been working towards all these years and making sacrifices for all these years according to the system that they've told you, these are the criteria that you need to meet, and you've met every single one of them. But because of people, right? It's not a machine that's automatically just watching you and then scoring you. It's people. But because you're dealing with people, there's always room for error. And this error is not always accidental, right? Sometimes it's intentional. Because you're dealing with people, there's always room for bias. That's the same thing. Many of us, most of us are not athletes, much less Olympic athletes. Most of us are just kind of like average day-to-day people, but many of us can relate to this. How many times have you been that person, or heard of somebody who's on a job, performing at their very best, doing everything they need to do? Okay, this is the performance standards. You need to do this, 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 and then you'll be eligible for a raise, and then you'll be eligible for promotion. You do everything that you can do. You've seen the person do it. You've seen the person sacrifice. You've seen the person, spend extended hours at work. You've seen the person wake up early to go to work and get there, even on time, or even earlier, much earlier than anybody else. You've seen the person stay late working on projects, going above and beyond to be the superstar of the company or whatnot. You've seen it all. Okay, you've seen them even as they leave for work or crying or having like an emotional breakdown because they have to leave their kids behind, or they have to leave, you know, their loved ones behind to be able to prioritize the job or to be able to prioritize the career. So yeah, when it comes time for a raise, promotions, and bonuses, yeah, they're gonna be looking at you waiting to receive what they've worked for. Absolutely. So can you imagine doing all of this, and we've seen that happen, and then the boss says, nope, I'm gonna give it to this other person that I just happen to like. If that's not a slap in the face, we don't know what is, right? And that's exactly what happened to Chalk Bates. Even though they've done it all, they've moved with how to say, skill. It's not they're not going around asking and looking for favors. They've just moved with skill and hard work, and that's it. Right? There are people in the workplace and other spaces, right, that they might work a little bit, but they don't get by with work. They might work a little bit just to kind of check the box and do the bare minimum. But they get through. How they get through is with favors from bosses, favors from colleagues, favor from senior personnel and things like that, because they have no substance. Some people just have no substance, right? Or they lack substance. And let's not say no, because some of them, they have a little something, but not enough to warrant or merit certain privileges. And that's just life. That's facts, right? So how they able to keep anything, jobs, positions and titles and things like that, how they able to keep anything is with favors, right? By going the extra mile to be up under somebody, right? Just so they can like you. But it's not, they don't move with skill. They don't move with actual substance, right? They do a little bit, and then the rest is like social. Whatever they can do with their social skills and their charm and their looks and whatever, those types of vain metrics. Okay, that's how people get by, but they don't get through with competence, right? In this case, nothing against the other pair. In this case, right? Baudry and Cicero, nothing against them. Obviously, they are phenomenal as well, right? Obviously. And they delivered their own performance as well. So they did what they came to do, just like everybody else. However, it's a little suspicious to see that in the rhythm dance, Chalk Bates came a point shy of their score. Okay? And they came after. Right? on the free skate or in the free dance, they came 1 point shy. So, is it a coincidence? No. I mean, come on. No one is going to be fooled. First of all, it was clear, it was very clear that the quality, even though both are amazing performers. Both pairs are amazing performers. That's not even on the table as far as like, there's no question, right? Both of them are amazing performers. What we're talking about right now is fairness. That's what we're talking about. What we're talking about right now is merit. What we're talking about right now is integrity, right? Integrity. You have one of them. You have first of all, a couple, both of them, that comes out and gives pretty much their all. Flawless performance, and comes off the ice with a certain score. And then you have the other couple who their performance was also very good. Yeah, it was breathtaking, but it didn't have the same impact as the chalk baits performance. It didn't have the same effects. Okay, not even mentioning the technicalities and some of the errors that were made in there, right? And again, we're not knocking them, we're just being, we're thinking critically about, okay, is this right? It's not right. It's not right. And then for them to, and then mind you, that couple, based on what was said, that couple is young. They've only been skating together for a short period of time, and then they come out swinging, and essentially they were handed, right? They were handed the gold medal that chalk bait should have received. Why? Because of the person, two people, three, whomever, at least one person judge that was on the panel that favored, that's all it is, that favored them. Okay? That had a bias towards them. So much so that they overlooked Ciceron's mistakes. That pair, they overlooked their mistake, and then every time chalk baits got onto the ice, they were looking hardcore for something to dock them on, or something to be critical about. And that's what people do. Here's the thing. What happened to chalk baits flies in the face of so many of us, especially when you're somebody who does your best, like you do your best to move with integrity. Okay, you're not looking and fetching for favors. You're not going around bribing anybody, right? You're just moving with nothing but competence. And your work goes before anything else, right? Your work goes ahead of you. You don't have to flatter anyone. You don't have to sweet talk anybody. You don't have to seduce. You're not trying to seduce anyone. You're just showing up and saying, hey, my name is so-and-so. This is my work. And that's it. And the only point of conversation is your job. When you are that type of person, There will be people that don't want you to win, period. They just don't. They don't want you to win, and they will position themselves in your life in such a way as to make sure that you don't win. Can you imagine the devastation that it is for Chuck Bates to have worked all these years, built their career together as a pair, and then later on as a married couple, and you don't know what life decisions that they've put on hold to get to this point. You don't know what that gold medal meant to them. It means a lot to a lot of people, but you don't know what it meant to them. But you can imagine if you are a thinking person, if you have a brain on your head, right? If your head is screwed on your shoulders. Like, if you are thinking, if you have a brain that's working inside your head and your head is screwed on, you can't tell me that this isn't something that's easy to figure out. Clearly they've worked for this. Clearly they've deserved it. Clearly they put it all out there, right? And even common sense, let's say you were to favor somebody, right? Let's say the couples were very, very close. Let's say the couples were super close. Even if you were to favor somebody, common sense would tell you, these are the veterans, they're at the end of their career, they're looking for the gold, they've done everything flawlessly without any mistakes. Okay? It makes sense to reward them, even if you were to kind of favor someone. Logic and common sense and basic human decency would say, okay, well, let me give them a little boost, let me give them a little something. That wouldn't necessarily be fair, but if you were to be biased, you would be biased towards them. Okay, why in the world would you cause such controversy at the games for a couple that is undeniably the best, right? Or the strongest, and at the end of their career? Literally, like, who is this person, right, that did that? Like, who did that? And not just once, at least twice they did it, because they made sure, and that's what happens when you're somebody who moves with integrity. There's always people somewhere, somehow they position themselves to make sure that they stand in your way so that you don't get to where you want to be. You can do everything, as the couple mentioned, you can do everything in your power. You can play by the rules, meet all the criteria, show up how you need to show up, go above and beyond, make sacrifices to get there. But because of people, they will make sure that you don't get the recognition that you deserve. Just like for the rest of us, you have a crazy boss that makes sure, even though they've seen you, they've watched you going in and out of the job, exhausted, putting everything on the line, right? Doing everything you can do to maximize your performance. And yet, when it comes time for the promotion, when it comes time for the raise, when it comes time for the bonuses, they have the nerve to say, you know what, no, I'm not gonna give it to this person who I've watched pretty much slave away all year. I'm gonna give it to this other person because that's my friend, because I like them more. Okay? And then the other person hasn't done even half. They haven't done even half of what that star employee has been doing. Not even a fraction, right? they've checked the box and that's about it. Everything else is just fluff. Everything else is just, oh, let's talk. Oh, let's have coffee. Oh, you look nice today. It's all flattery. It's all surface level. It's not competence. When you move with skill and competence and integrity, there's gonna be people that stand in your way on purpose. And that's exactly what happened to chalk baits. That's exactly what happened to them. To make sure that they don't get the recognition that they deserve. To make sure that they don't get to celebrate their moment. They don't get to, be recognized as the legend that they are, right? And that's what was stolen from them. So when you see things like that, even though it happened to them on their platform, it happened to all of us, right? Because this is the human experience. And some of us are deeply disturbed to see that play out on pretty much national television, international even, because it's an international event. And for people to just sit there and watch and say, oh no, it's okay. No, it's not okay. And you know what else? Not only is it a disservice, it's not only a disservice to chalk baits. Yeah, they're the most affected because you rob them of a glory that they've worked for. They've worked for this. They've earned it. And you rob them of that moment. But not only is it a disservice to them, a slap in the face for them. Of course it is. And I know Madison said, it's a disservice to the sport. Yes, of course, because anybody else that's coming out, they're like, well, why bother? Okay, especially the young ones coming up. If you're already in it, you're already in it, and that's your career. But why bother? If no matter what you do, you always have to rely on a person. You can't just move with skill. You have to move with almost like diplomacy, and be up under people in order to win. Well, you know what? Some people may be like that, and that's how they get by in life. But many people, they don't function this way. Okay, they don't function this way. They put in the work. They meet the criteria. They do what they need to do. That's about it. Okay, but don't make people. They don't have to. Lick your boots for you to give them crumbs. Like, no, they shouldn't have to do that. They shouldn't have to do that. Okay? They shouldn't have to do that. Hard work and skill should be enough. That should be enough. And that should be the only metric by which people get through the door. And by which people win. And that's it. Point blank, end of story. But the minute you introduce, that's my friend. Oh, I know you. No. The minute you introduce all those things that pretty much can't be measured, it basically cancels out. Makes people think, why bother? If you have to depend on an individual, a person or group, to favor you, to find favor and say, oh, okay, I guess I'll give you this. No. Then forget it. Might as well just go somewhere else at this point, because it's not worth it. It's not worth it. But that's two, right? Chalk baits, slap in the face, and then a disservice to the sport, as Madison put it. So the young ones coming up, there is no drive, there's no motivation for them to keep doing this, because you just show them that when you show them that, look, we don't reward hard work here. We just favor people. right? And that's it. It doesn't really matter what you do, all right? Now, they can't come out right and say that, but that's exactly what is showing up in the results. I mean, just look at the results. Look at the show and then look at the results. It's not a coincidence that they got docked at least twice from what we observed. And they got docked at least twice, and then the other team, the other pair, got boosted unnecessarily, right? That's not something. It's not something they earned. It's something that was given. Okay, right? So, but the third level of this, which no one has mentioned, and I'm gonna be the first to mention it here, is it's a disservice to the gold medalists, supposed winners. It's a disservice to them, because how are you gonna win, quote unquote win, even if obviously it may not be, they may not be in on it, they may not know the situation. Like there are people that bribe judges and things like that to get certain things out of them. We're not saying that they did that, so they may not be aware. But if you look closely at their reaction, to winning gold when the points were coming out, even though they were happy, obviously in the moment, that's just a natural reaction, because they realized, oh, I won. But there was hesitation. It's almost like they knew that they didn't. They knew that they did well, but they knew that they didn't earn first place, right? But in the moment, okay, let's, obviously celebrate. Let's be happy. But there was a little bit of reservation. Like there was a little bit of even restraint in their emotions. It wasn't all the way happy, right? But then again, maybe we're reading into this because we don't know them personally, so maybe we're reading into this. Okay, fine. Let's let that go. But when you consider the fact that they won at the expense of the other pair, and the other pair is clearly upset, and so is the public. Is that really winning for them though? When you think about that, can you really truly celebrate your gold medal when people are upset that you won? People think it's unfair. People see it as this was stolen. Can you see that? The other couple is upset that should have won. Chalk Bates, they're upset, obviously. Okay? And then their own sort of group are upset. And the crowd is divided now, right? Because it's wrong. When you give something, it doesn't matter how close it is, when you give something to someone that belongs to someone else, just based on bias and favoritism, people are not going to be happy with that. And this created a division, basically, in the crowd. Not just, obviously, those that are watching on TV and they can't feel the emotion, but we can be sure that there were emotions in that arena, right? We can pretty much be sure of that. And tension. So even if you are the French couple, even if you are the French pair, can you really celebrate your win? It's a little awkward. It's a little awkward knowing that you've upset thousands of people by winning. Hopefully, you had nothing to do with it. Like, hopefully, there was no bribery, there was no kind of like things, deals that were done behind closed doors. Nothing like that. Hopefully not. But even then, if that was me, like, listen. It's almost like it would be more, it's more upsetting to have one gold than to have one silver. Because they were, here's the kicker. That couple, the French couple, they were ready to win silver. They would have been just fine with silver. That's what we don't understand. They would have been just fine getting silver. And they would have known that they deserved it. Like, they would have known that that's what they worked for. They were a little short. They made a couple mistakes. Not huge, gigantic mistakes, but by comparison, they made significant mistakes that would bring them a step down or steps down from the U.S. couple. They would have been perfectly fine with that. And everybody would have been happy. So that judge put them in a very awkward position. So that's why we say it's a disservice to them as well, because they can't fully celebrate their so-called win, right? It's not a win, it's a favor, moved by bias, okay? Serious bias. And just there's a lot going on in there, but we're not gonna get into those details here. But we'll say at least bias and favoritism, at least those two things were at play in the rewarding of the gold medal. Okay? So that puts them in an awkward position. Now, obviously that guy, Cicerone, he may not be moved by that because like he's kind of like used the scandal. So maybe that doesn't mean anything to him. But for the rest of us, like, listen, this is not a good look, okay? If anyone puts your name, like compromising your name, like involves you in some sort of scandal or some sort of controversial situation, that should upset you. So by doing that, by favoring them, that judge put them in a bad situation. That judge put them in a very difficult, awkward situation. Because now your name, instead of winning clean, your name is caught in a scandal now. It would have been better. Anyone with integrity, right? Anyone with integrity. As much as you may have wanted gold and things like that, if you have integrity, it would have been better to say, you know what? I don't know what happened there, but this medal belongs to you because they know. You can tell by the facial expression, at least the girl. They know that they didn't skate better. They skated very well. They didn't skate better than Charbates. They just didn't. But when you're used to scandals, and that's what you do, maybe it doesn't mean anything to you, right? But if you have some level of integrity and some level of dignity, it would have been better to just be like, you know what, I'm not sure what's going on with the judge situation, but this medal is rightfully yours. That would have, first of all, been a true sportsmanship. That would have been a sign of just integrity. It would have cleared your name out of the whole scandal because you're not accepting this. Like you're not sitting there and accepting deals and favors. You're moving with class, and that's the difference between the two couples. One of them is in the business of stealing and dealing, and the other one is in the business of hard work and competence. They move very differently. One of them gets through doors with skill and integrity. The other one gets by with other things. So, and it's great to be talented. It's wonderful to be talented, and it's sad that your talent, your exquisite, just breathtaking talent, because the French performance was truly breathtaking. But it's sad that your talent would be overshadowed by your character or lack thereof. And again, we're not saying you created this. We're not saying the French created this, because we don't know what happened behind closed doors. But the judge put them in a very awkward situation where unless they do something to like negate what the judge did. For example, let's say have a conversation with the US team, have a conversation with the panel, like actually look into this to see, like, was this earned? Like, did I actually get this, or was it just handed over? Like, unless they do something to actually clear their name, they're just as much a part of it, right? They just kind of like, oh, okay, well, we won. But the sad part is we assume they're innocent. We assume that, but the move that the judge made, or the judging panel made in their favor, cast a shadow on their talent. Now, although they're not the ones to be at fault, they are the face of the problem. Does that make sense? Like, no one is looking at the judge. Everybody's looking at them and seeing them as the thief, right? But it's not them. It's the position that they've been put in by the judge. The judge put them in that position of basically not being able to fully celebrate. They would have been perfectly fine with the silver, and they would have been able to celebrate the silver just fine. Right? But now they put them the judge put them in an awkward position of gold. Yeah, but it's like, well, what type of gold is it if I have to defend my name? Like, people don't actually think I've earned this. They think this was handed to me for free, right? And no one wants to be in that position. No one wants to be that, right? Now, if you're used to scandals and that's what you do, then maybe you're more comfortable with it. But for the rest of us, we would much rather be like, you know what, you should have just given me silver. So that couple, the French couple, should have a problem with that judge. They should. It's not like, oh, thank you so much. No, it's not thank you so much. It's, you've compromised my name and my work, and I have a problem with that. So they should be just as upset, maybe not as much, but very close to it, as the US team, because at the end of the day, that's your name, that's your work. You don't want to be involved in these, sketchy situations where people have to question the quality of what you do. You don't want to do that. And it's not fair to them either. It's not fair to the French couple to be put in that position. So, needless to say, what happened to Chalk Bates is nothing short of scandalous. It's a slap in the face of them and the rest of us that are trying our best to move with competence and integrity. It undermines anything that has to do with hard work and basic decency, and it promotes other characteristics that are very much subjective, and it promotes other things, like basically winning is based on other metrics. Then just say that. Come out and say that, and say winning depends on who you know, what you do with them, how you move with them. It's like, why don't you just change the system so people are clear Okay? Stop misleading people. Stop doing that. Change the system and tell them exactly how to win. That's the point. This is how you win. You don't have to rehearse if you want to, meet this and that if you want to, but really it's about who you know, right? What did you do with that coach? How did they know you? Did you hang out together? Did you spend time? Did you go to the house? Did you break bread? Like this, these are the real criteria that people are actually winning by these days. And just come out and say it. That's all we ask. That just come out and say it. Be truthful about it, and stop swinging people. Going around and around, giving people false information on how to win, giving people false information on what the criteria is for winning, and then when they actually meet or exceed that, you deny them. That's wrong. That's wrong. And the rest of us average people are just as upset as these Olympic athletes. Just as upset, because that's exactly the types of things that go on in the Olympics. It's just the same types of things that go on in the workplace, and it needs to stop. It needs to stop. Stop giving people false hope and false information. Okay? Tell them, stop misleading those children, telling them, hey, this is what you need to do to win, and then they can never win. Because they don't go around like sucking up to people. They don't do that, right? They actually work on their craft, and period, right? That's it. They don't try to go around trying to seduce anybody. They work on their craft. They're on the ice. They're on the court. They're in the office. Grinding. Okay? Grinding. And that's it. Okay? So this flies in the face of anything that has to do with integrity. This flies in the face of anything that has to do with hard work, when you know full well that's not what you're measuring. Okay? So stop giving people false information.